Hi everyone, welcome to Northern Embers and thank you for being here, and thank you if you've subscribed and for your support. What I want to do today is take a little look at some tinder for firelighting regarding using a ferro rod. That's the ferro rod there, and this is the knife we'll be using. And basically a ferro rod gives you a shower of sparks, and I just want to take a look at a few natural tinders that are around by me. I'm not an expert firelighter. I have had my failures as well as success, and sometimes it's the failures that you learn from the most. So we'll take a look at what I've got, and we'll see how we get on today. Also, we'll be doing a spot of lunch, but we'll see what that is after. Cheers! Okay, let's take a little look at some of the material that I've got. This end piece here is sugar. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I've never managed to get that to take a spark. I believe it can take a flint and steel spark, but today's video is about the ferro rod and knife. This is a slightly different section of the sugar than I tried before. It's a softer piece and it's more against the back of the fungi and against the tree. So we'll try that. This is my go-to tinder. This is birch bark, it's the best. And I'll be using this to get my actual fire established today. As I go through all of these, I'm not going to make a fire with everything. I just want them to take that initial stage. This is horseshoe fungus. Located underneath this tough outer layer here is this, which is called amadou, and this is quite flexible and it can be fluffed up. To take a flint and steel, I think it needs to be prepared properly, but I think that'll take a ferro rod spark, and that just gives you your initial take. This is some dried moss. This is my favorite. This is birch polypore. This grows on a birch tree, and this sat in my drawer and it's dried, and I've cut off a sliver there, and that'll take a ferro rod spark. And I think if I char that like you would a char cloth, that'll take a flint and steel as well. That's for later. I'm not an expert at using flint and steel, and I'm not in a rush to do every single firelighting technique that I can. I'm still learning, I'm going through the processes, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm just going at a nice pace. And this is some grass. Now I'll point out that will take a spark from the ferro rod, and I can put that into the grass and I can get a fire going. That's just for practice, because you've got to bear in mind that the ferro rod will start that grass up without having to do that. I can bypass that. It's just for fun. Once that's processed properly in order to take flint and steel, then that will come in handy. So it's nice to just go through that. So I think we'll take a look at, as I say, the last action will be to have a fire. I'll just start that with the birch bark. But we'll get started and we'll see what we can do. We've also got this wood punk up the back here that I just collected. Now ideally what you want from wood punk is sawdust. This isn't the best stuff that I've picked, but it was what was there when I got it. So the idea of today's video is about first take. So if this can take a ferro rod spark, then you've started your process of firelighting. So I'm not going to turn this into a fire. This is just about first take, and that next stage is your next level of skill. Then is to go on. If I wasn't doing all this, then today, yeah, I'll get a fire going using this. But because I've got to go through a lot of things and I want to keep the video length down slightly. But the idea, look, if I just take a little bit of that, if that can take the ferro rod spark, then you're on your path to getting the fire going. Now I'm not just going to do one strike. I'm going to give it a good going there. Okay, I've got a slight flame, but that's... So we've got our first initial take, and that's what I wanted. That's the purpose of that. Now your idea is to let that get strong and then add your other tinders to that to build up your fire. So that's going good and strong. At this time of year now, this is midsummer or just gone past, I mean, the dried bracken is negligible now. It's kind of all gone past its use really. Well, it still can be used. So say I don't want to get a fire going, but I'll just put a little bit on and we'll see what happens. Has been raining pretty much every day for a month now, but still the bracken's quite dry. That's your second stage take. Now you want to have all your twigs ready for your fire. Okay, this is the chaga. Now for me, if I get this to take a spark, that'll be the first time that I've ever done that. In terms of getting a fire going with it, I'm going to save that for another time. I just want to see if I can do this because I've tried it 3 or 4 times now with chaga, but it's been really hard, and this is that softer part, as I said. So I don't know. I think it's taken right on the end there. You can see, I don't know if you can see it smoking slightly. It is, it's taken. Same principle as the sawdust. Get a good strong ember and then put your tinder in there, or your next stage tinder, and get a fire going with that. I'm very excited about that, and I will do that in another video. Look at that, it's going fine. I believe it can take a flint and steel. Well, it can, I think. But that's a level beyond me at this time. Okay, next is going to be the moss. And I've seen people take moss off trees and get a fire going. I've not quite been able to do that, or I have a little bit. This is dried out. This is sort of first stage of my fire lighting, but it's almost a second stage if you say that the sawdust took and then I got the bracken on top of that. You're going to want to have all your materials ready for the next bit after this, because this is just going to go up in flame. Just turn it upside down and you're good to go with your next fire there. This is the amadou from the horseshoe fungus, and we'll see how we go with that. Again, it's just that first stage, just to get it to take. So I think that's it now. It's starting to smoke. I fluffed it up a little bit, not too much. And that's not been processed, that's just been dried. That's been taken out of the underneath part of that and then just dried out. Well, you can see that smoking away like mad. I don't need to do this. As you saw, I got the moss going with the ferro rod. But I'm just going to put it next to that and see what happens. A little bit of fun. Okay, that's with the Amadou, which you know, I've got the fire going with that. I can actually put that out and save it for another time. So with everything that I've used there, you can always use grass with that as well. Put your Amadou in there, or your sawdust, or whatever that you've got, your sugar. But grass can also just be lit. A lot of this that I'm doing really is practice for when I start to master the flint and steel. Okay, I got the grass going there. I actually put out the Amadou and it started smoking again. So, I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about that. If you try and put, sometimes it's really hard to get a fire going. You're trying to put that out and it actually keeps going. Right, okay, what we've got now is the birch polypore. There it goes. This is quite like the Amadou. It's a bracket fungi. It's going in 4 places there, 5, 6. Once it gets going, you're talking absolutely amazing. So I think if I prep that to take a flint and steel another time, I think you're on a winner with that one, to be honest. Look at the way it goes. What I like about the polypore is that it's not just going to disappear. It's a really slow, hot burning piece of tinder. That's the polypore. So that's burning away. There's the polypore. I mean, again, it's so great. Okay, I did a video of this not so long ago. This is bark of spruce off the tree. Got the inside here. Make your own sort of tinder just by getting these fine shavings. Okay, I'd want probably 4 times the amount of that, to be honest, but all we want to do is see if that takes. So that takes, and so long as it's got something to feed into, you'll get quite a decent number from that, and then you can do the next stage and process. So that goes, but you can see why I'd want maybe 4 times as much. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Just before I get lunch on, just want to take a look at one thing. This is Flint and Steel, so for me this is next level sort of fire lighting, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have got a fire going before using the Flint and Steel with charcloth. This cost about £10. There's no flint around by me, and so I have to purchase it off the internet. And I was about to make a purchase, and then I saw on YouTube that you can use quartz for fire lighting, and it's related to the flint as is chert. And then a friend of mine said there's quartz around by me, and he's right enough. It's everywhere actually. and this is the quartz. I don't have to buy it. You've got to find a sharp edge. It does produce sparks, and this needs to be probably a bit sharper as well. This is a big piece. Good sparks out of that. If I can get the right bit. Okay, so the purpose of this now is that's all the char cloth that I've got left, and I'm worried that that's not enough. If I had only this flint and steel, or this quartz and steel, I'm worried that that's not going to be enough to get my fire going. And I want to do a transference of my ember, and I'll show you what I mean by that. My technique's rubbish, and I'm going to have to edit this to get this char cloth going, but I'll do an initial couple of strikes. I don't know, yeah, I've got to practice this, to be honest. Oh, that took. Okay. So I've taken that char cloth now, and I've got that birch polypore going, and I'm going to be so much more confident about getting my fire going now with that, because I'll go and make a cup of tea and come back, it's still going. So that's all I wanted to do, was just show that you can transfer it as well. And that's not been prepped in any way, that birch polypore. Remember, it's just dry, so it just helps me, I think, with the confidence to if I was in a situation where that's all I had, was that was my last piece of char cloth, I mean, I'd be quite happy to do what I've just done. In my little tin of tinders and goodies, I actually found this as well. That's dried pine sap, and I'll break it up a little bit. Now, you can use some things together. Imagine that's all the grass that you've got. That's all you can find. It's going to burn so fast, it's hardly going to get the fire going. You would struggle. And I'm just going to mix up some of this pine sap in here. Pine resin. The important thing to note here is the pine resin burns for quite a while actually, so it's quite a good resource in itself. So you've got more chance of getting the fire going if you can combine two materials like that. It's got a lot of oils in it, the pine resin, so you can see the black smoke there actually. Still going. So we're going to get the fire going now, and we're going to use the birch bark. Birch bark was basically, spent my entire life lighting fires before I got into this with match and paper. And birch bark was that eureka moment for me, where I realised, you know, I didn't even know you could get a ferro rod and get a fire going, or use the back of a knife, and let alone birch bark. And I just never ever will I go back to using matches and paper. I use matches sometimes for ease, I think, but here we go. That birch bark's like the pine resin. It's got oils in it. And if you get yourself some nice little sticks like I've got here, you're not going to fail to get your fire going. Nice dry wood. I put my sticks up on an angle. No purpose really, just that I like doing it. Although I think it gives something for the fire to bite up into. Right, well, that's the fire going. Absolutely love my craft and what I do, to be honest, and being out here in the woods has been fantastic for me today. Birch bark's absolutely brilliant, full of oils, and with good proper wood like that dried pine there, you've got your fire going. For lunch today, I've got a gammon steak, eggs and beans. Going to be cooking that in an MSR fry pan. The gammon steak's about as big as the pan, so I'm going to have to cut that up a wee bit, and I'm looking forward to it. And first I think I'll get a cup of coffee. There's always something better about eating food that's been cooked outdoors. This is absolutely delicious. Hope you enjoyed the video today on a few tinders to use with your ferro rod. For me it's a natural progression to make it harder and harder for myself as time goes on, but I'm in no rush to do that. So, you know, I need to master the flint and steel, the quartz and steel, and then the next natural progression from that will be to sort of use all natural materials, rock on rock, maybe pyrites on the quartz, but that's maybe, and then natural tinders that will take that kind of spark as well. Really important for me to learn that. There's also fire by friction, bow drill, hand drill. I've done a bow drill, I've never done a hand drill, and I'd also like to do a bow drill without using a knife and axe to ready the materials. So that's all in time, no rush as I say, and just enjoy the process of doing it, that's all. So it's been a nice day, and yeah, I just thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for your subscription, and hope to see you again.